fashion fun, or is it actually just as hard work as being in government, looking at trade?
Extremely fun. Extremely fun. Nothing to do with all the world's problems that we are faced today in trade. Yeah, it's very different. Yeah,
it is very different because what's incredible is that you can actually pass on some of the higher, costs because of inflation, textiles, even shipping, to your consumer without any impact. Is this the power of the Valentino brand, or is it that when you're the elites buying these clothes, you're not price sensitive?
Well, Valentino is an amazing brand, so we definitely have a lot of attraction, and we have a lot of very loyal followers. But at the same time, I think the luxury industry in general have seen in the last few years a very significant increase, because there is no doubt that with the pandemic and the way that money had been spent in the markets, rich got richer. So there is a lot of really money within a segment of the population, and these people are trying more and more to spend the money on luxury goods. With the pandemic, as we know, countries have been throwing money in the market. Most of this money ended up with rich people. Rich people now, after the pandemic, they are aware that they are going to die. They want to spend the money on luxury. And more exclusive things are even more and more in demand at the moment.
So haute couture and things like that? I mean, gowns that cost £10,000?
The most exclusive brands and the most powerful brands in terms of luxury, they have seen growth of 40-50% in the last 2 years. Valentino have been among those brands, and we have seen the more expensive products are even more in attraction than anything else.
Are you missing the Chinese consumer? If you look at the heavy lockdowns that we've seen.
Yes. Well, China is an amazing story in terms of luxury, because they went from 0 to almost 40% for all the Chinese consumption globally, in China and outside of China. And that is almost equivalent to the US and Europe combined. But with the pandemic, the Chinese consumers moved into China. And that consumption moved outside of the European and the American market totally to China. 2020, there have been a lot of activity in China. 21 have been a very mixed year, because we have seen the lockdown. Now in 2022, there is a big question mark about the Chinese market, because until today, almost 80% of the population in a lockdown situation. And that really is a big issue for the luxury business, because we are not very clear about what is going to be the rest of the year looking like.
So can that demand shift actually from US consumers? Can the Middle East absorb some of that demand, or is it just lost?
The US is booming as a market for luxury. It is the fastest growing market in the last 2 years now, and we feel that this is going to continue. Europe is picking up. Middle East is becoming a very, very active market, again, because the locals have been buying in the Middle East instead of coming to Europe. Latin America, Brazil is also really becoming a very strong market. So as I said, we are seeing more and more local markets. China is a question mark, but America is leading at this stage.
Are you after M&A targets and
valuations? We are definitely.
Fashion houses?
For sure. I mean, there is always an appetite to look after very, very special brands, because we are very focused on luxury. And really, the essence of luxury is the power of the brands. I mean, luxury is a very special business, and it is very emotional, and it has to do with a lot of history and a lot of emotional powers around it. And we know that this is very much located in countries like Italy and France, where over many years they have been able to monopolize.
Do you have a dream brand? Is it a stuffy old brand that you can, with the right design, and try to revolutionize?
Yes, we do, but I cannot tell you.
You cannot tell us. So you have to tell me as an exclusive when you buy it, maybe. Sure. You want to rival the big French conglomerates, the LVMH and Kering.
Well, LVMH and Kering have been a very successful, of course, example of creating a platform of companies, and definitely created an amazing, evolution in the luxury market. In Mayhoola, we are trying really to have a group of companies. We are not going to do the same thing, because we are very much depending on keeping companies with their own DNA. So Valentino, as an Italian company, we want to keep it an Italian company. And we have done an amazing job with Valentino, taking it from 300 million to over 1.5 billion. And it has been a great success story, and we are repeating that, and we would like to repeat it more with keeping it very local. Yeah.
Do you think you'd be able to actually buy companies at a cheaper price because of COVID? So if you're buying a luxury company that used to do a lot of formal wear, this is not the way we dress anymore.
Yes.
Because COVID also put a lot of pressure on supply chains. Do you think you can scoop up a bargain?
yes and no. Definitely there is a pressure that will happen in terms of the market. But as I mentioned, when you look for special luxury companies, they have this very special DNA in terms of that brand. And if you really can find them and access them, the value is not the most important factor when you acquire them. So maybe if they are available in the market, you will overpay a little bit, but that's worth it in the long term.
How do you make that special DNA? We were just talking, you have Zendaya as one of your campaign figures.
Yes.
You have a pretty, force of nature designer that has managed to transform this brand into something desirable.
Well, Valentino is an amazing brand. Mr. Valentino Garavani, of course, created a dream more than 60 years ago. And when we acquired the company, we had the challenge to move it into the new generation. And that is really the power now and the challenge, that you take something very, very historical and very valuable and very iconic, but you can also make the transformation to the young generation and what is called Gen Zs and all the... So we have been able with our designer, who's an amazing designer, Pier Paolo, to introduce products like sneakers, which have not been in luxury in 2014. Accessories have been also very much into the attraction of young people, but also being able to have a conversation with this generation. And here comes Zendaya. Zendaya is an amazing, person that can really create the link between the brand and the new generation. Yeah.
Do you think COVID has changed the way we dress? So less formal wear?
Sure, for sure. That is, and by the way, the trend was even before COVID, but COVID accelerated it even more. People less formal and more casual. This is happening.